I don't know about what the collective is going through right now, but I'm going to share with you what I've been experiencing, and if it helps someone, that is great. But I can no longer shove them down out of, I don't know, the people around me, which just mirror us anyway, right? They mirror the things going on within us. So if we have a lot of chaos and drama happening around us, we actually, instead of engaging and fighting, I think it's more, a lot of people will tell us to engage, react. But if we take a step back and we think about it for a minute and think about how it feels when we're in these situations, these highly charged situations with other people, if we're being triggered, what I'm learning is it's still something within myself that I've not fully seen or accepted, integrated, parts of my shadow, parts of my lower, parts of myself that I would consider my shadow, consider bad. Let's just call a spade a spade. We are taught to feel that those aspects of ourselves are bad. So we are told to hide them or express or react or respond the opposite. Like people please or be nicer, things like that. But the way it's being shown to me is more multidimensional, and the way I'm experiencing it, if I'm understanding it correctly, which I believe I finally am starting to, let's just say in the finance region of your life, we are seeing lack and people are supposed to pay us money. Let's just say somebody owes us money and they don't pay us back, or they continuously call with different reasons, excuses, blah, blah, blah. There's many ways to respond with this or react, but what most people, I would say 95%, if not 96% of people are trained and programmed to believe is that everyone outside of us is separate from us. They don't consider the mirror, and the mirror is trying to get our attention to things that are happening within us, and not just happening, but beliefs that we hold about ourselves, actions that we have been taking. They're going to show up in those around us. Are we supposed to just cut those aspects off, like tell the people, I don't want to deal with this anymore? I don't think it's a negotiation. The way it's coming through to me is, it's not so much like we're not going to argue with somebody who owes us money, but is giving us excuses. Because what we need to do is give ourselves a minute and say, okay, where in my life am I doing that? Where am I not honoring certain contracts, certain, paying my bills or whatever on time? Who do I still owe? So if we're trying to create stability in our lives, which if this message found you, if you're hearing this message, you attracted it for a reason. That's just how this works. We're all being mirrors for one another. If I am hiding my gifts from the world and not sharing them in some way, not speaking up for myself, not promoting myself, not believing in myself, that is again what the mirror will reflect back to me as well as you. Like this is just how it's coming through to me. We should not judge a book by its cover, because these mirrors, right? People, sometimes we have soul contracts with someone. They're probably karmic, they're for lessons, they're for growth, expansion. In this case, it's a bit different for me, because the karmic lesson, if it's learned, then it can become the higher version of that. So right now, we might be in Karmicville, okay? Learning all the lessons, really taking it in, and like all the bandages are being ripped off, and there are these oozing, infected, disgusting wounds underneath that we have not addressed. And that's just part of this. I think Carl Jung called it like the blackening or whatever. I'm not sure which stage, but it's part of the individuation process. So there is the psychology behind this, the philosophy. I mean, Carl Jung did know what he was talking about, absolutely. But there's also the spiritual aspect, the multidimensional, which, again, if this video were to be heard by, say, a pastor who doesn't understand this work or has never experienced life in this way, they may be, Mr. Judgy or Mrs., judgmental. But if you really stand back and look at it, it is a lot like them prophesizing over people. How do we know what we know? Whether somebody calls it the Holy Spirit, whether somebody calls it just intuition, or whether somebody calls it satanic or demonic, like, oh, you have attachments. And I've had a few people lately throwing things out like that to me, almost as if to say, well, you're not connected to God, so I don't know where you're getting this information from, but I get my information from the Most High. I get my information from the Lord. I feel like I do too. I never felt like, well, except for maybe back in 2019 or so, when I first started going through this process and seeing things multidimensionally. But at the time, I didn't even know what multidimensional was. So, of course, I also thought I was being spiritually attacked. I thought people were out to get me. I went completely left with it, like paranoid. It takes so much courage to actually look at ourselves and then integrate the lesson, embody the parts of ourselves that we would need to in order to respond or pivot and make the correct decisions or take the actions we need to take in order to integrate that lesson, in order to integrate this lesson, and so on. Not a lot of people may understand it, but Carl Jung did. There are people out here. There's a whole collective of human beings who are feeling lost, who may be getting false information. They may be going down certain rabbit holes, and as soon as you do feel like people are messing with you or everybody's out to get you, it just puts a target on your back, basically, because we all have frequency. We're energy. So depending on which frequency we are emitting at any given point of any given moment, that is what we will experience. If we have the inner knowing that we are all knowing, that we are part of everything, that we are part of the collective, that we are one, that we were never divided. If we can fully embrace that and not judge others, because I've always said this, we should never be judging one another, even though, the court of common pleas, right? The legal system in the 3D would tell us otherwise. If we have lessons that we need to learn, then nobody should really be judging one another. Yes, we're going to have a reaction. Yes, we're going to be triggered. But what we do with that is key. That's absolutely the key to unlocking the higher, or what we would label as better. It's just a different experience. It's like an expansion of our consciousness. I can't say that. So as we see these aspects being mirrored back to ourselves, the way I'm seeing it is that to integrate is not to jump ship and abandon. Because if we block somebody, I heard this once and I think it's a true statement. When you block someone, yes, that is going to cut off your energy from them, of course. It's making a firm no, thank you. I don't want any more of that. However, when we do block somebody, we have to be very careful who we block, when we block them, because if they are mirroring back to us aspects of ourselves, then abandoning those aspects is probably not the best idea. It's stepping up and becoming the higher version of that, while also not judging another and not letting them pull you out of your inner knowing of why they're showing up like that. Because if they do pull you out and you fall into victim mentality, then the lesson doesn't get learned. It's not integrated. So the integration part is the embodiment of that lesson. So basically find a way to stand up for yourself while energetically not allowing those things to hinder us. Because if we ruminate over a person, place, or thing, then that is an energy drain. If we ruminate over our finances, that's an energy drain. Anything that we just ruminate over instead of taking action on different ways to change the circumstance for ourselves, like showing up for ourselves in a different way. That's the main thing I've been seeing lately. So many people are being triggered, and so many people are going through these same awakenings all across the planet. How are we going to help one another if we can't even accept the fact that that's what's happening to us, or that's what we are going through? And how are we going to step out of our shells of fears of being seen, fears of being judged, fears of not knowing what we're talking about, or fear of not having enough information? Whatever the fear is, if that fear keeps us from speaking what we're actually learning and going through, then we have to do it all over again. It's just like these cycles that are on repeat. And I know for one, I'm tired of showing up like this, or not showing up the way I need to show up for myself. I know, deep down, I'm a badass bitch. And same for y'all, whether you're male or female. There's these aspects of you that are lying dormant, begging to be embodied. And that is the challenge as we move through 2026, the rest of 2026. But anytime you hear this video, because it's timeless, anytime this video reaches you and you hear it, it is for you. That is how we attract. That is how we know what the mirror is. And maybe there's not a ton of people at this stage right now, but whoever you are, I think there's a lot more than people, a lot more than I even imagine. A lot of people need to hear these messages so they know they are not crazy. This is really happening because we are moving into higher frequencies of creating, being in creator mode, and we should not be shamed or judged, nor should we be doing that to ourselves. We should not be judging ourselves. We should be, if anything, holding ourselves up to a higher standard. Not perfection. It is not about perfection. It is about accepting the fact, hey, maybe I can't pay my bills right now. And that's why it's being mirrored back to me. But you know what? I'm not going to judge everyone else for it. And I'm most certainly not going to judge and shame myself for it. What do I need to do? I need to figure out a way to step into a different way of thinking and believing about yourself. Like, yes, I can do this. I might not be able to do it as quickly as I need to, but I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to trust that as long as I am following my heart and whatever makes me happy and excited to do, that is most likely the thing that will bring the most abundance, because our finances are directly correlated to our joy, our love, our creativity, all of that, the ability to give and receive, to exchange energy. It has to unlock. And if our hearts are closed and we're doing something that we hate and struggling just to make ends meet, that is a huge red flag. That's a huge alarm going off. So it's not about perfection, and it's not about fixing something in one day either. It's like, get the lesson, see the mirror, take it back to yourself without complete and total triggering reactions, because that is judging. If you judge someone else, then you will be judged. You're judging yourself too. So let's stop judging ourselves for these things we call flaws. We just didn't know. We didn't have the information before. And when we know better, we attempt to do better, to make different choices. It doesn't mean that we're going to get it the first, the second, the third time, but eventually we are going to start to see and recognize the patterns and use them to improve upon. That's it. Progress, not perfection. One foot in front of the other. And if somebody else wants to tell you, you just need to do this or you just need to do that, thank them. But ultimately, it is your decision. And if you've got opinions flying at you from 10 different people telling you 10 different things, take that back to you and say, okay, wow, I must have 10 different aspects of, like my own perception of what I should do. I have all these ideas floating in my head, but which feels most aligned to me right now? Because another message too before I close is, it's how we show up to a situation. So if you show up to a situation as the leader, saying, okay, and being honest about it too, like, okay, yeah, this is what I did. This is where I messed up. That honesty and self awareness actually can it can open the door to other possibilities. There's so many possibilities out here. It's just following your intuition and taking action on that when that happens. Now, I'm not saying fear won't creep in, but fear can't dictate. Like I've been afraid to speak my truth lately on a lot of topics. And over the last few days, I'm not going to get into it personally, but there was something that happened in my family, and it was like kind of just blew the lid off of that. It's like there was some kind of a release, and there has to be, so that I would actually have a way out of this mental loop where I was looping and doubting and then flopping back to fully understanding, but then going back to judging myself, shaming myself for the situation, the financial constraints that are happening in my life right now. But guess what? I can't go back and change what I've done. I can show up differently now in a different energy once I see that and once I fully look in that mirror. So these are karmic lessons. It's part of this, I'm not going to say a game, because it's far from it, and it can make people feel like they have nowhere to go. And at that point, that's when you have to start raising up out of that mindset, and instead noticing opportunities and then taking action on them if they feel aligned with where you want to be. All right, I'll be back with more later. Take care.